Hello. Hello, everybody. It is Saturday. Let me just, away with this. It's a little easier to... Hello! Hello, hello! It's been a hot minute since we've been in the just chatting room. Be a little up close and personal. I prefer that. Hello. It has been a week. It has been a time. It has been... Last night was a night, bro. Guys. Heckin'... First off, my lips are hella dry. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm so sorry about what happened. I'm so sorry about what happened to your mother, Hero. I'm so sorry for that. That's... I can't even imagine. I'm so sorry. Heckin'... I mean... Alright is already an achievement. As much as I rag on my mother, I can't imagine waking up right one day and she's gone. So you're already so much stronger than me for that. But yeah. So obviously because I'm streaming and it's usually around my usual time, I don't know if Varendell announced it, but we're not going to be doing Eternal Sonata today. They ended up double booking something along with the other person in the collab. They told me earlier this week it wasn't happening, that it'll be next week. So then I was like, well, I certainly don't have anything to do. I certainly don't have anything to do on Saturday then. That's gonna be weird, trying to find a stream topic or something to do that would only need to be one day. But yesterday was, this week was a relatively alright week. Tuesday and Wednesday, I was in a really, really bad mental state of sorts. Just something, like, just dragged me into this, like, I'm not gonna say a dark place, but it wasn't a fun place to be mentally. And then I was immediately knocked out of it. Because, my engagement ring was finally finished. Jester re-proposed to me, with, my ring, and now I have, my engagement ring. The one that I showed the design of a while back. And that reinvigorated me so hard. And like wearing this. Congratulations on getting the documentary, man. It's awesome, and I hope it turns out exactly how you want it. Well, here's the thing. We're gonna talk about this in a second, because I've talked about this documentary, and I don't take any credit for the documentary. First off, when it comes to the ring, having this on, like, makes it hit pretty hard that I'm getting married. Like, and again, not even, like, just the ring itself, the fact that I designed the ring, and it's been made, and I'm holding, like, this. It's pretty crazy. I do have a picture of it, of the finished ring. I'm gonna... Let me show you guys really quick, before we get to a little bit more of the slightly depresso topic, which is not really even super depresso, but, like, thinking about it makes me emotional, because I am a very emotional being. Let me... yeah, I'll do it like this for now. Don't feel like grabbing it, putting it in VTube Studio just to do all of this hubbubaloo. It's just gonna be really, really big. Because of course it is. Heckin'. We finally got my ring. It was custom made. Obviously, I can't give the name of the jeweler lest I disclose where I am. It's got the pink sapphire. They don't look, they're a lot more pinky. The picture doesn't do it justice. And it's hard to see the rose gold because of the box. But it's with pink sapphire, and then there's these two little tiny point diamonds in the center. And again, like, there's some getting used to it. There's some getting used to it with the wearing it, because I don't normally wear rings, but I've already gotten compliments from it, and then people, like, telling people, yeah, it's my engagement ring, I'm getting married, and people are like, oh my god, that's such a unique ring, like, you know, where did you find that? Where did you guys find such a unique ring? And being like, we commissioned it. We got it custom made. is already pretty crazy. The jewelers also gave us, like, a box of really fancy chocolates, and Jester and I are split it in half, and he's already eaten his whole half of the chocolates, that I'm slowly eating away at mine because I don't want to eat so much chocolate. I also had a bag of mini eggs that I'm not done with yet, so I'm like, I have to have these first. But yeah, we finally got the engagement ring after all these, like, months of, like, trying to, like, get a jeweler and, like, discussing and waiting for them to find the gems. Because apparently the pink sapphire was a little bit difficult to locate. Eventually they found a supplier that did a lab-grown sapphire. And I'm gonna tell you right now, for those who at one day either wish to commission a ring, whether it be for engagement, marriage, or just because you want to get yourself a nice ring, The gems are gonna be the least of your worries. The gems will be the least of your worries. They will be. They'll take the longest, but they will be the least of your worries in terms of cost. The cheapest part of the rings were absolutely the gems. It's my, well, I guess it's both. I guess it's both engagement and wedding ring because Jester and I aren't interested in getting wedding bands. Like, bro, I don't even know how much this cost. I only know how much the stones cost because Jester told me. He won't tell me the final price of the ring. I just really hope he didn't, like, he said that it went above our budget, but he said, considering where the budget came from, because his mother really, Mama Jester really wanted to help us with a ring, he said not to worry about it. But as difficult as getting the gems was, it's still not half as hard as getting a ring made for Galen. Yo. Yo, that fucking ring. Yo, Galen and Polo's ring. It was like, what are we getting first? GTA 6 or the fucking ring? We got it though. It's cool seeing you getting married, and I hope it's the start of a, yay. I'm really happy. And again, having it is like a whole like experience, a whole like, what do you mean? Oh, I have, oh, hold on, let me turn off, because I have background music, but I also have like the piano music, because I have piano on. But it's not as audible as it probably could be. There we go. So yeah, we, the gems were relatively quick, easy to find. And, well, not easy. It took some time, for them to be procured and to be found. Originally, again, these are pink sapphire, which is the gem I wanted. But if they couldn't find pink sapphire, my secondary choice was going to be tourmaline. But they were like, tourmaline probably wouldn't be that good for an engagement ring because you'll be wearing it all the time and it might scratch and crack. So, we'll see how we can get sapphire. But they were having a hard time and they said, would you be opposed to pink topaz if we could find it? And I was like, I really would not want topaz, but you know, if sapphire is that hard, I understand. But I have no problem waiting. Eventually, they were able to find a supplier. And it actually saved a lot of money. Sticking to pink sapphire, but lab grown. And again, you wouldn't know if it was lab grown if I didn't tell you. Congrats on the ring. Now you must find the one to rule them all. Looking forward to our divorce arc. But, and then the two little point diamonds in the center, they're very tiny. But, I didn't want them to be the focus. I just wanted them to be an additional little glitter in the center of the ring. And the gems were definitely the cheapest part. So again, if you're ever going to be looking for a ring, the gems are the least of your worries. What won't be is the band. Because again, I know what our budget was. I won't say what our budget was. But according to Jester, the ring went over it. And he was like, but don't worry, you were worth it. It's our engagement ring. You're supposed to be wearing this for like ever, so it pays for itself. Don't worry. And I'm like, ah. It's kind of like an hourglass. Oh, here's the funny thing. Again, I've shown the design and what inspired it, but it's a bow. First off, like main thing, it's a ribbon, because ribbons are a huge motif of mine. I love ribbons. And funnily enough, yeah, when I showed my friends the design, And what inspired it, one of my friends was like, oh, and it's shaped like an hourglass, symbolizing the time you two will be spending with each other after this. And I'm like, also, it's a bow. So yeah, it also kind of looks like an hourglass. And I think that was really unintentional, but it worked. And then rose gold, because I've always had more of an affinity towards rose gold instead of regular gold. I found that like the very light pinky tinge of rose gold suits my skin far better than regular gold. My skin is fine for all three golds, but I thought the pinky tone suits my skin better. And again, it's a lovely ring, and I love it so much. And again, it makes it hit so much harder that I'm getting married in 4 months. like fucking what? Oh, but so that was my Thursday. And then Friday was like showing off my ring to my coworkers and some regulars. But then yesterday was my brother's birthday. Because as I've told before, I have an older brother. And we every time he and I talk, we end up talking for like hours. And we're chit-chatting. Hi, Yulila. Hello. Welcome. While we're talking, I did take a little bit of a gummy because my back was hurting all week. But while we're talking, we start talking about like how some of our current family members are doing. And he's like, yeah, auntie, she's like this right now and she's doing all right. Everybody's like this and like that. We're figuring out how we're going to get to the wedding, blah, blah, blah. And eventually the conversation starts kind of turning into like history, like family history. And I've talked about it briefly on stream before, that my grandfather, I never got to know my grandfather. But what I did know about my grandfather was that he was an important component in the taking down of a fascist authoritarian regime. My father helped. My grandfather did that. I knew that he was a photographer. I knew that he took pictures of people in the torture camps in the Dominican Republic. I knew that he was eventually captured, and no one ever saw him again. So, assumed dead, killed. But that makes your brother's politics incredibly ironic. Oh, I've told him. Trust me, I've told him. I'm just like, yeah, bro? Is this how you want to vote with our history? Like, I knew our history, but I didn't know our history. So, yeah, no, my brother voted for Trump. He regrets it now, and I don't let him live it down. But he does regret it. But it is what it is. But we got to talking, and it didn't help that I was starting to get high because the gummy had started hitting. But I started asking all these questions about my grandmother, about my mom, because, and I've talked about it before as well, I'm very distant from my family, like both sides. My father's side, I'm very distant with all but my grandfather, paternal grandfather. And I just don't know really anybody from my mom's side, except for my uncle who helped with my taxes because he's an auditor. And we're talking, and I don't have any good memories of my maternal grandmother. I only remember bad experiences with her because I knew the first time I met my grandmother was when I was maybe around 5 or 6. We went to DR. And around the time we were getting ready to leave, I'm hearing that grandma, an aunt, and a cousin is coming with us. And you know, as a 6-year-old, you're like, okay. You're like, okay, that's weird. You know, you're a 6-year-old. You're not really told why. You're just told, you know, these people are coming with us. And they come back to the States with us. And we lived in a 3-bedroom duplex, like a house with 2 floors, but like for 2 families, a 2-family house. We lived on the top floor, and it was 3-bedroom. I had my own room, my brother had his room, and my parents had their room. When we brought my grandma, my aunt, and my cousin, we're gonna call my aunt, we're gonna call her Auntie B. So when we brought, you know, my grandma and Auntie B, they took my room. They took my room. They moved into my room. I had to share my room, share a room with my brother. They reinstalled these bunk beds. And my brother and I shared a room for maybe up till like 4th grade. So like maybe 2-ish, 3 years. 2-3 years, yeah. I shared a maybe like 2 years. 2 years. Because September 11th happened when I was in 3rd grade, and they were gone by then. I had my own room. But 6, I was like about kindergarten. So 1st grade, 2nd grade, yeah. It's about 2 years they took my room. And I remember them moving out. I remember being excited because it meant I could have my room back. And I would occasionally see Grandma and Auntie B and my cousin, and they weren't the best of times. I don't remember. I would always remember like my family arguing and getting into like scuffles with my cousin and things like that. And I always thought that when they came with us to the state, that they were in the state. And then I'm talking to my brother about things where I'm like, yeah, we just don't have good memories with Grandma, Auntie B, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, yeah, there were the times we saw them and the times they were back in DR. And I'm like, what? He was like, yeah, like, you know, like they'd be here for about a year and some change. And, you know, things would get a little bit rough for them, so they'd go back to DR. And then they'd stay there for some time, and then they come back to the States so that they can maintain their permanent residency, because they were permanent residents. And I'm just like, huh? So they weren't always in the States ever since we brought them. And he's like, no, they occasionally went back. They only stayed in the States for like their required time to keep residency, and then they would sometimes go back to DR, and, you know, stay in DR, do some stuff here and there, amass some money, do some things, and then come back to the States when it's like, hey, your requisite time in the States to keep your residency. And I was like, why wasn't I told this? Why didn't I know? And he was like, you probably didn't. You probably were told and you just either didn't understand what that meant or didn't care. And I'm like, no, like I didn't know. And he was like, yeah, you probably didn't. You probably forgot, or you weren't told, or you didn't care, or you never asked. And I'm like, oh. And I was like, well, they're in the States now. And they're like, yeah, because now they have their citizenship, and you know, it's a little bit better than well, it's better than being in DR. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, all right. And I was like, okay, well, and then he was telling me, because Auntie B is my mother's half-sister. When my grandfather was taken and killed by the regime, eventually my grandmother remarried, and that man is who she had Auntie B with. And my brother was telling me how one of the reasons Auntie B doesn't really want to be in DR is because most of the family doesn't acknowledge her. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, she was, when we went to visit, she was in the house. Like, our cousin was in the house, and our other cousins. And they're like, yeah, because she's family. But she doesn't have, like, the loyalty and the bond that the siblings of my grandfather had. And I'm like, you mean the fucking trauma bond? And he was like, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, the trauma bond. And I'm like, huh? And he was like, have you seen the documentary that came out? And I was like, it was sent to me on a link, but I hadn't gotten a chance to see it yet because I was waiting for like the right time to watch it. And he's like, yeah, they talk about grandfather's story. They like our main auntie, she talks about the day they broke into the house and took him. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, yeah. They didn't just like snatch him off the street. They broke into the house and they snatched him, and like grandfather like had like a gun and he was ready to like fight these people off or kill himself and the family so that they weren't all captured and done worse. But they got him before he could do anything like that. And again, I'm also high while we're having this conversation, so I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, so like Auntie B doesn't have this bond with them. And I was like, yeah, but Mom and Auntie B are kind of like all right, and they communicate regularly. And she's like, yeah, because like Mom was the youngest, and around the time that like, you know, Auntie B was a baby, Mom was old enough to take care of her. So grandma threw Auntie B onto my mom and was like, take care of your sister. So like she kind of had to raise her low key as best as she could. She was parentified. And, you know, Auntie B ended up being like a spoiled brat with a huge temper. Not a bad woman, but you know, like a crazy. And hi, emoji. And my brother's like, yeah, but the other siblings didn't really bond with her. One of the siblings was in the States. One sibling was in the States. And I'm thinking that's my uncle that's an auditor. But like they're like there was a family member in the States and heckin' the story's a little mixed up in my head, and again, doesn't help I was high. But it was like, yeah, you know, once everything happened and grandma remarried, and I was like, okay, wait, so then grandma remarried. Where is her husband? Because my grandma passed away from cancer. And where was he? We had to take care of her because Auntie B and the cousin couldn't take care of her and didn't want to. And all these years, grandma was like so cold to my mom. And the last years of her life, she was like so remorseful and appreciative and all this stuff. I remember like my grandmother crying to me, saying that she was sorry that like she wasn't there. That like she never took the time to know us before she passed away. And me being a kid, I was like, yeah, it sucks seeing my grandma like this. And I remember crying when I heard she passed away, but like I didn't know her and I only had bad memories. And my brother's like, well, they divorced at some point. So why would he be there when she got cancer? And then I'm like, okay, well, where is he now? And they were like, well, at some point he went back to DR. Cause my brother has memories of Auntie B's father, step grandpa. And I was like, I don't fucking know him. I can't recall a face or a name. You remember him? And he was like, yeah, because I was like old enough to, but I only saw him a couple times. I think you only ever saw him once and you were too young. And I was like, okay, well, where is he now? And he was like, well, sometime a long time ago, he went back to DR and he died of COVID. And because COVID was pretty bad over there at that time, he was buried in a mass grave. And there was a period where Auntie B had to go back there to confirm it was him. And like, I think they had to cremate everyone. I don't really know how the mass burials went in DR, but she had to go there to confirm some records and stuff and all of that. He was like, so yeah, so he's dead. And it's like, why did no one tell me? And he's like, why would anyone tell you if you don't ask? And I'm like, that's right. And he was like, you're doing your own thing and you don't have good memories of these people. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And he was like, and you also have to consider our own. This all started because we were talking about Cordon Bleu. This all started because we were talking about Cordon Bleu, because I was trying to explain what Cordon Bleu was to my brother because he never had it. And I'm trying to tell him it's just ham, chicken, and cheese with hollandaise sauce. And that's where I also learned that my brother doesn't like poached eggs and doesn't like eggs Benedict. And I was like, you and I are gonna have to fight because I will die for eggs Benedict, but I can agree to disagree on the hollandaise. And then we started talking about freaking Josh Godfrey and his mom and her awful freaking cooking. And then we were like, wait a minute. Our mom is like low key, like, cause it was like, oh, this freaking like unseasoned freaking, we were joking about like unseasoned white people food. And we were like, but wait a minute. Our mom wasn't any better. Like, my mom wasn't a bland cooker, but my mom seasoned everything the same. And it's because she never really got to enjoy cooking, because she didn't enjoy cooking. We didn't, like, we were just talking about how different our childhood was. Because it's like, right now, you as a person, right now, think about a dish that you loved growing up. Be like, whether it be like your mom's stew or the way she made like a certain type of dinner. Where it was like, hey, mom's making freaking chicken and dumplings this week. Mom's making this, or dad's making this. Like a dish that when you knew it was on, that it was coming for dinner, it wasn't a special occasion dinner. It was just a dinner that you occasionally had that you looked forward to. Gesture has that, where it was like, yo, dad's making schnitzel. Dad has steak. Dad's making freaking beer chicken. Like, think about those dinners, those normal everyday dinners that you as a children were like, man, mom's cooking, dad's cooking. Or food you have, yeah. I don't really have that. My brother doesn't really have that. One time my brother was with some friends and he had told his friends that he prefers his wife's cooking over his mom's, and they couldn't understand that. There was only one dish I remember growing up with my brother that we were like, no, we used to love that dish. That when mom made that occasionally, every once in a while, we were like, that fucking dish, but we don't have anything else. Did I get a message from? But we didn't have anything like that. And we knew that our mom didn't enjoy cooking because she would make a lot of food for the sake of leftovers so that she didn't have to do more. And while we're talking about this, it's like, well, yeah, my mom couldn't enjoy cooking because she was parentified and pretty much forced to cook to take care of the other siblings. Even though she wasn't the oldest, she was forced to cook to take care of Auntie B, and again, the other siblings by proxy, and the house by proxy. So she never got the chance to enjoy cooking and be like, I'm gonna experiment, she knows recipes, she knows foods, she has memories of food, but we didn't get that because she was kind of put into survival mode when she was given her little sister and been like, you have to take care of her while mom and all the other siblings do their own thing. Yeah, it's a sort of trauma to her in a really weird way. And because of that, we only have like literally one dish that we're like, mom's making mondongo tonight. Oh, fuck yeah, we're gonna eat good. Other than that, we were never excited about her cooking. My mom only ever cooked to make sure that we got fed, and I'm sure she loved us. I know my mom loves me, and I know my mom loves us, but she cooked to just make sure we were fed. There wasn't a special occasion for food, unless we were like, hey mom, can I have like, on my birthday, can you make like arroz chaufa? I kind of like when you make that. We didn't have like a hey kiddos, I'm making this tonight, yay! Like, we didn't have that. And heckin', going back to the other topics, it was like my mom used to season everything the same because of that. And I was like, low-key, my mom's the Latina equivalent of someone who just cooks for cooking's sake. Like, again, like the Josh Godfrey video, they're like him, like, hey mama, what you cooking? And that freaking lady makes the most like atrocious fucking food where she literally took like just like chicken legs, she pulled the skin up on them so that the skin covered them, no seasoning, nothing, put it in the oven, and then took it out and then put barbecue sauce on it and called it barbecue chicken. And I was like, well, it certainly is chicken with barbecue sauce on it, but I wouldn't call it no fucking barbecue chicken. You took chicken plus barbecue equals barbecue chicken. You cooked with additions. And we were like, holy shit, that's what mom did. But just the Spanish way. She made rice with beans, and then she took chicken with an adobo, un aderezo, slapped it on whatever meat was available that day, and we had dinner. It was survival cooking. And all that to say that cordon bleu, like, it just sounds like food you slap together because you're hungry and you need food. I wouldn't even call it girl dinner din din because no, my mom made dinner. but it was just, here's your protein, here's your carb, here's your vegetable legume. It was necessity food. I wouldn't even call it a struggle meal, because again, the food wasn't bad, but it was just that. It was just food. There was nothing else to it. And again, when you watch the Josh and Mama videos, like, you look at her and you're like, does she even like cooking? Because she just takes shit and put them together and calls it a meal and then eats it and is like, what's wrong? It's food. Like, you don't, like, most normal people know that barbecue chicken is chicken that is seasoned and tossed and all that good stuff and then grilled, and you watch over it and you take care of it so that it tastes good. This bitch just cooked chicken in an oven and then put barbecue sauce on it. Like, just took barbecue chicken, broke it down to the main two components that they think it is, and then made that and then called it barbecue chicken. It's food you eat and you don't complain. Exactly. Either way, we were like, was our mom kind of low-key the equivalent of that, but not as fucking atrocious? And he was like, well, kind of, yeah. She was like Spanish chicken. She took chicken, Spanish dressings, let it marinate for a day, and then tossed it over a saucepan and called it a day. She made rice in the rice cooker. She made beans in a pot. There you go. There's your standard Latino dinner. There's your seasoned meat. There's your rice and your beans. And I was like, okay. Well, I thought it was common knowledge, Rod. I guess frickin' not. I guess some people don't know how to make barbecue chicken. It's not hard. Either way. So then, taking that, learning that I already kind of knew my mom was parentified, because she had told me, she's like, yeah, no, I used to take care of Auntie B. I used to change her diapers. I used to cook food. I used to clean the house. I used to do everything. Which is why she was doing that to me when I was younger. She was like, you need to learn how to cook. You need to clean. You need to do everything around the house. And eventually, like, I was in charge of the chores. I was expected to do that. And all my mom did was cook. But even then, because they were paranoid about me being around the oven. To know that my mom never got the chance to experience enjoying cooking made me really sad. It made me so sad. And then, like, hearing again from my brother, going back to my grandfather, he was like, you really should watch the documentary. And I was like, I want to, but I've just not found a proper time. And he was like, yeah, no, our family's kind of fucked up. And I was like, was grandfather really gonna kill his family? And he was like, if they were gonna come for him and they were gonna kill the family anyway, he was gonna kill them himself. And then kill himself. And I'm just like, damn. The line could have ended right there and then and there. And he's like, yep. But yeah, going back to what my grandfather did, I still haven't seen the documentary. I still haven't seen it. I've seen like the first 10 minutes. But then I got really emotional and I couldn't keep watching it. But according to what my brother told me, my grandfather was a photographer. He was part of a photographers guild in the Dominican Republic. And he was a photographer for the immigration offices in DR. So, he was essentially a government worker. And as I've mentioned before, Trujillo was an authoritarian dictator who ruled over the Dominican Republic. His leadership, his era of leadership, is considered one of the most bloody in all of Latin American history. Not just Dominican, Latin American history. One of the bloodiest. This man had a whole genocide. That still affects the relations between the Dominican Republic and Haiti to this day. If you look up the Parsley Massacre, it is when DR went into Haiti and just massacred Haitians. But the reason it's called the Parsley Massacre is because obviously in the Caribbean islands, there's many people from many skin colors and skin tones. So you can't just go to a dark-skinned person and assume they're Haitian. They could also be Dominican. So one of the things they would do is they would ask them, how do you pronounce this? And they would show them a stem of parsley. And depending on how they said it, because Haiti is French and the Dominican Republic is Spanish. And the word for parsley is said differently in each language. So if you didn't say perejil, they would kill you because they knew you were Haitian then. And they killed so many, thousands, I think tens of thousands, many. That was done under Trujillo. There was a lot of government-sanctioned political violence under him. There was a personality cult around him. It was a very, again, authoritarian. It was very fascist. Like, Trujillo, the only good he brought was that during his era, the GDP of the Dominican Republic was very high. Life expectancy for the average Dominican essentially doubled. But the government feared him. The government, they would do things almost... Hold on. Like, you know how, like, in a lot of dictatorships, they would have, like, the household would have to have, like, pictures of the ruler in their homes? There were signs that households could have that had a picture of him, that had a depiction of him, that said, in this house, Trujillo is known as a national symbol. There, in churches and in some of the cities, they had thrown signs that said, you know, Viva Trujillo, so long live Trujillo. There were slogans like Año del benefactor de la patria, year of the benefactor of the nation. There, in churches and in other cities, there were signs that said Dios y Trujillo, God and Trujillo. And then there were even some signs that eventually churches were required. They were forced to have signs in the churches that said Dios en el cielo, Trujillo en la tierra. And that meant God in heaven, Trujillo on earth. And then eventually, pa que tú sabes, so that you know how arrogant this dictator was, he had the phrases reversed. Trujillo en la tierra, Dios en el cielo. Trujillo on earth, God in heaven. He even put himself over God. And it was required. I think I have right here. Let me put this little, I want to have it, there we go, my little 3D panel. yeah, so like this right here, if I'm to move a little bit, it's hard to see here. But this was a sign that people would have in their homes. En este hogar, Trujillo es símbolo nacional. 1955, año del benefactor de la patria. And again, it says, in this household, Trujillo is a national symbol. And then again, year of the benefactor of the fatherland. These were in households. And like there were stamps with him and his family members on them. Like this man was so up his own ass and he had so much fucking power. And one of the reasons the Parsley massacre happened was also because he, as the ruler of DR, he created this nationalist regime that were like, the Haitians are invading us. The Haitians are taking our land from us. We can't let the Haitians take it. We need to kill them. And it worked. So going back to my grandfather, where does my grandfather fit into all this? He was an immigration photographer, a government photographer. And Trujillo had a lot of political opponents, some around the world that he somehow still found a way to kill. There was revolutionaries, because there were revolutionaries. Political opponents, journalists that spoke out about him. He had his opponents everywhere. Someone like this did not have opponents. For this bastard, right? Yeah. So one day, so again, like Trujillo is like dictator bingo, because there were prison camps. There were prisons where they would torture his political opponents. In 1958 or 1959, a bunch of Cubans and exiles from DR all came in and invaded DR in droves to try to fight and dethrone Trujillo, to overthrow him. And it didn't work. A lot of them were killed, and a lot of them were captured. And a lot of them were thrown into a prison known as La Cuarenta. And obviously, you've got to document these prisoners. But Trujillo, being the man he was, wants to know whether or not these people were killed. Which means he wanted proof that they were dead. So one of the officers of La Cuarenta, again, this is a story I was told by my brother, and I haven't seen the documentary, but an official from this prison camp was like, we need a photographer. We need a photographer to take pictures of these people before we execute them, so that we can send these pictures to Trujillo as proof that we've done the job. And unfortunately, my grandfather was chosen and given this job. So he was taken to the prison and he was told, you're going to photograph these. You're going to photograph these, and you're gonna develop them, because my grandfather also had like his red room for developing photos and stuff, because he was just also a photographer. You're gonna take these photos, you're gonna develop them, and you're gonna give them to us so that we can prove to Trujillo that we are killing his political opponents. And that's what my grandfather did, because obviously he's been thrown into this and he can't say no. And he did it. He took pictures of people right before they were killed. I don't know the entire story of when they captured him, but I'll maybe get to that. No, he wasn't forced to kill anyone. He was only told to photograph it. Because that's what he was. He was a photographer. And in developing those photos, he couldn't take it. The officials told him, these pictures don't leave, these pictures, you don't share this with anybody, you don't spread this to anybody, or you know what's gonna happen. But my grandfather, with all of his conscience, could not do it. So he made copies of those photos. His brother, my granduncle, who was a pilot, he gave those copies to the revolutionaries and to his brother to spread outside of DR, because as with most authoritarian fascist governments, they were very restrictive of the press. The press did not know this, was not allowed to know this, could not report about this. So the Dominican Republic was closed off. The press could not know about this. The press could not expose this. There was no way to. So the rest of the world didn't know what was going on. Trujillo was making deals with other countries, with the US. If they did know, they didn't do anything, because probably there was no proof, but the world didn't know. And with my father leaking those photos, eventually it spread. It got to the other Latin American countries where they learned about what was happening. I don't know if this part is true yet, but my brother was telling me eventually it reached the United Nations. It reached the US. Eventually, Trujillo was assassinated, and while the US is like, we totally didn't have a hand in that, the weapon was supplied by the US CIA. So yeah, they did. But my grandfather knew that upon leaking these photos, because he was the only one who could have had them, he knew it was only a matter of time, and that he was on borrowed time. He knew that by doing that, he was gonna die. He knew that if he did that, he was gonna die. But he did it anyway. And if he didn't, no one would have ever known. My aunt, my eldest aunt, I think, she's in the documentary along with one of my uncles. And at least according to my brother, because again, I haven't seen the documentary. I've only seen the first 10 minutes. Apparently they tell the story of when, again, the house was burst into and they took him away. Oh, Jester just came home. Did you get bubble wrap?
Yeah, they don't feel like.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to pop it. I don't really pop bubble wrap. I was always told not to because no one likes it. Thank you. But so fast forward, you know, the photos leak out. Trujillo is overthrown. Eventually, there's a civil war in the Dominican Republic. Eventually, government change, all that stuff, for better or for worse. And my aunt, she talks about how in the history books, when this is written, when this becomes a part of the history books, and they show the photos that were leaked out, they don't say who took them. All they would say was an insider, a snitch, a whistleblower, an officer at the prisons. Nobody knew who took those pictures. Nobody knew. Nobody knew who took those pictures. No, it wasn't to no, it wasn't to protect the descendants. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. Only the family knew. Only the family knew where those pictures came from. My grandfather, his last name is Fuentes Berg. When he was taken and captured, my grandma and remaining family members who went by Fuentes Berg cut Berg out of their last names to protect themselves. Because Trujillo didn't completely lose power till 61. So for some time, they kind of did that to distance themselves from him and to kind of go in hiding. To kind of lay low, because they could have been to protect themselves. So the way my aunt words it is that not only did this regime kill him, but they also killed the memory of him. Because he wasn't credited anywhere for leaking these photos that allowed the rest of the world to know what was happening in this country. Nobody knew his name. We knew because we were the family, you know? I knew because, you know, I see the photo of this man in my living room with the family members, and I don't know who he is. And my mom tells me that's my father. That's my father. he helped take down an evil regime, but he was taken away. That's what I was told growing up. And obviously, as I grew up, I got a little bit more details, but I never knew the full story. So my brother's telling me all of this and telling me, like, please just watch this documentary. But today, I was literally thinking of just turning on stream and being like, guys, let's watch my granddad's documentary. Because again, I had no hand in making this. The only reason this documentary even happened, and I've seen interviews with the directors of this documentary, the two people who made this documentary were also photographers. And they had seen the photos and they were like, what photographer was this? But nobody knew. Nobody had an answer. They were like, we don't know. And they wanted to do some research on it. And they knew someone who owned a newspaper publication. I hope I'm recounting the story right, because it was in Spanish and I had to like process it in my brain. But they knew a publisher of a newspaper. And the publisher of a newspaper had said that he had gotten a letter from someone claiming to be the daughter of the photographer who took those photos, and that she believed it was time for people to finally know and acknowledge her father for what he did. And that was my aunt. She wrote to this newspaper. There's still some left. You can have the rest. She wrote to this newspaper and said, hey, it's like the anniversary of all this stuff. I can't remember what occasion it was that she chose to wrote this publication. And the publication held an interview with her. These two photographers that eventually went to make the documentary, they were like, can we get in contact with her? And originally they were just gonna film a little 5-10 minute little thing talking to her and my uncle and getting his story. And then it just exploded and became a full documentary, a full hour and 20-minute documentary. And it's not just my aunt and my uncle talking about my grandfather. There's also the daughter of one of the prisoners who was photographed before being killed. If you were to look up my grandfather's name, there's a specific picture of a man on an electric chair. And that picture is the most iconic of the most infamous picture of that regime. One of the people that talks in that documentary is that man's daughter, who never knew what happened to her father. She knew that he went to DR and he died, but didn't know the actual circumstances. So when she saw this picture, you know, she needed to find out about her father. And then another person that talks in that documentary is a survivor of those prison camps. And they talk about the time there, the experience there, the pictures. And again, family recounting of everything. And it just exploded and became it became a book, and then it became a documentary. Nowadays, there's like finally a street named after my grandfather in the Dominican Republic. I also learned that the house that my aunt lives in is the same house. It's the house that she grew up in. It's the house that our grandfather was alive in. It's my grandmother's house. It's from my grandmother's side of the family. But, you know, when they married, he came to live in that house, and apparently that is the house where it even happened. And again, once I see this documentary, it'll be more clear. But it's crazy, is what I can really say. It's crazy. So I had no hand in this documentary. My family, when it premiered in theaters in DR, thank you for the cheek rubs. My mom flew to DR to the premiere with her family to see that, to be with her family and see it. But I had no hand in this, and I couldn't watch it in theaters. When I knew that it was going to be in theaters and stuff, and it was in the process of being finished and completed and all that, I remember asking my mom, please let me know when it's on like a streaming site or when it's on YouTube or anything. I want to share it. And I never really got an answer. I got some newspaper articles. I was told the title of the book and the name of the documentary, but never told where to watch it. Eventually, I was given a Vimeo link that asks for a password. I was given that again yesterday. And I was literally going to start Stream Up and be like, hey guys, we're gonna watch this documentary. But something in me, as fitting as it would be, being my grandfather's granddaughter, to essentially leak the movie like he leaked these photos. In good conscience, I couldn't. So I contacted the owners of the movie. It's been like published by Gabuertos Cinema or something. I can't recall the name. I found their contact information on I found their website with their contact information, and I've sent them an email. It would be following Grandpa's footsteps. It would be sharing his story. Also technically sharing in my aunt's footsteps too, because it's like, this is his story, this is what he did, this is what he exposed. This is why he should be known. Like, the history books still don't really refer to him much yet. I think they've been updated, but I don't know. And yeah, it'd be very, very like him to leak it out, but at the same time, a part of me is like, no, I need to be professional about this. So I've sent them an email, and I've explained who I am. I've said, hey, this is my name. I am the granddaughter of the subject of your documentary. I have an online community. I am a content creator. I'm a content creator. I want to share this. I want to share it. I want to request your permission to share this. I want in some way to help his story reach past, to go beyond Latin America. Because it showed in theaters in DR, I think it showed in some places in Latin America. It won a Puerto Rican film festival. It won the grand prize in a Puerto Rican film festival, so I think it also aired in Puerto Rico. But there's no way to, as far as I know, there's no way to watch it. There's no streaming service. I don't think it was ever shown on TV. It's not in theaters anymore. There's no way to watch this. Without getting into exact details, how do you even prove that you are well you? I can prove it. Obviously, like, I have passport. If they are in connection with my aunt, I can show that. Like, here's the thing. I have access to the movie. I have not to us, to them. Well, here's the thing. I have access to the movie because when the theatrical run to the movie ended, the movie was uploaded by the publisher onto Vimeo, along with their trailers, was published onto Vimeo, the full version, and it's password protected. I have that. Only the family has that. Only the family has this. I have it. If they ask for proof, I can give it to them in some way. And also, like, when it comes to social media standing, they don't really have, unfortunately, they don't have, like, any social media presence. So, like, who else would be contacting them? Who else would contact them about this, if not someone involved in some way? Or a relative of some sort? If they ask for proof, I can find a way to prove it. But even then, I want to put the movie in front of more eyes. And I want to help with that in some way. As easy as it would have been to just turn on stream and play the movie here, I want to be respectful about it. Because these are people that decided to help his story be told so that more people would know it. And I want to be respectful to that. So I've sent them an email saying who I am, that I'm, the granddaughter, that I'm, a social media influencer, a content creator, and that I want to share this movie. I want to share this with the community to make his story more known and hopefully transcend more borders. If they say no, then it's a no, and maybe I'll do like a private screening on the Discord. Because I do want to do like maybe even a community screening. If I can't do it like here, then I want to do a community screening. But like I want to experience it with you guys. Really is what it is. I want to experience it with you guys. And I hope they reply. I would really like if they did. I don't know if and when. But I'd like to hope they do at some point. I mentioned I didn't want to go into crazy detail in the email, even though I really should have. Because I first want to make sure that they answer me, and if they ask me any questions, I can just answer them from there. Well, I opened a can of beer in the memory of the Chernobyl disaster, but here's to your grandpa. Thank you. Fine, just do a sock puppet reenactment of the documentary. I was thinking... I've only seen the first 10 minutes. And thankfully the movie has subtitles too. Thank goodness. I was worried about that too. But Guasabara Cine is the name of the thing. Founded in 2013 with the aim to produce films that capture the Dominican Republic with an authorial perspective, emphasizing the development of new narratives and the construction of an identity that questions Latin American aesthetics and hopefully that of cinema in general, is what it says on their website. If I'm to put it here for a brief bit. Right here. Probably still hard to see. And I'm sorry. But hold on. B. But they have on their website they've got their movies, and right here where it says the number 40, El fotógrafo de la 40. And it says here, Pedro Aníbal Fuentes Berg, 34, a man dedicated to his family, worked as a photographer in the migration direction during the Rafael L. Trujillo dictatorship, the Dominican Republic, 1930 and 1961. His work led him to witness firsthand the brutality of the regime when he was forced to photograph the torture of political dissidents in the dreaded La 40 prison. José Mesón had deserted from the Dominican Navy to join the exiles from Cuba, and the United States were fighting against the Trujillo dictatorship. As part of the expedition that sought to liberate the country on June 14th, 1959, he was detained by the military and taken to La 40. Their paths crossed in a single instant, a decisive moment in their lives and the future of the Dominican Republic. Fuentes Berg was forced by the military intelligence service to photograph the moment when Mesón was tortured in the electric chair. The iconic image became a historical testimony and a symbol of the atrocities of the dictatorship, thanks to the fact that Fuentes Berg and his brother Gilberto sent the photo abroad. And yeah, the trailer doesn't have subtitles, which is why I won't put on the trailer. Again, a part of me wants to at least show, I think it's like the first like 9 minutes. I kind of want to show you guys that. But I feel like I'm gonna get emotional. Because I haven't been able to watch it past that. I also don't know, like, I'd have to... Hold on, let me put in let me put this so I can get like a better perspective. That. There you go. So I could... This is when we find out it's heavily copyrighted. I mean, I've heard The Verge of Tears in My Ears aren't playing tricks on me for the past... I mean, if I have heard The Verge of Tears in My Ears aren't playing tricks on me for the past hour. So, I'm willing to show the first 10 minutes. But I won't show the rest in the hopes that maybe I get permission to show the whole thing. This very VOD, funnily enough, I can use that as proof that I am who I claim to be. I don't want to give my full name, pero como la nieta de Pedro Aníbal Fuentes Berg, yo quiero el permiso para compartir la película El fotógrafo de la 40 con mi comunidad. No solo como un creador de entretenimiento sobre línea, pero como una familiar que quiere compartir su historia con no solo la comunidad latina, pero la comunidad enteramente del mundo. And I'm actually craving a ceremonial tea tray with my great granddad's tools. It's nice to use them. Hello. Y si no, seguiré sus pasos y si no, seguiré sus pasos y lo compartiré con el mundo. Well, first I want to see if I can get their permission to show the rest. And then if they say no, really fight the urge to do it anyway. And be like, like, I don't know. I want their, if I can get their permission, I won't. Grandpa would be proud. I'll be like, and if not, in honor of my grandfather, I will leak your movie. If you do it anyways, I was only half joking. So I'm gonna actually really quick. I want to see. The reason I want to do it like this is the only thing that I'm worried about is if it's gonna show. First off, hold on. Is this the? Oh wait, this is the trailer. This is the trailer. This is the trailer. I should close this. This is the trailer. I don't need that. No, but for real, Grandpa's a legend. He freaking, while I was still high talking to my brother, I was like, bro, our grandfather was so cool. Like, holy shit. Really quick, I just want to make sure that, like, if I show it this way, okay, you guys should still be able to see the subtitles. Okay, good. I am also really quick, as a show of good faith, I'm going to hide the Ko-fi goal. I don't want that there. And I just want to hide this. You only know the true measure of a man when he's backed into a corner. Grandpa showed. Yeah. I'm gonna Bernard should be speakable, but he'll be there. So I'm only gonna show the first 10 minutes. It is in Spanish, but the subtitles are in English. And yeah, this is gonna be all I show until I get permission. So, and for the sake in Spanish, la única porción que voy a enseñar del documentario son solo los primeros 10 minutos más o menos para enseñar a la comunidad, para ver si están interesados en viendo esto, pero más de eso no voy a enseñar. So yeah, we're gonna watch the first 10 minutes. I'm actually, wait a minute before. Okay, we've got quite a bit till ads. I'm also gonna give them a little bit of a snoozing. And I'm just gonna play the first 10 minutes through. And then we'll talk a little bit more about it. 3, 2, 1, B. And I'll look at it through this so I make sure that it is still visible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got it got a lot of like sponsors and stuff.
Había una hora, se iba la luz, como a las 7 de la noche o las 8, comenzaba un movimiento, abrían una puerta, no sabíamos cuál, se llevaba una persona, no sabíamos quién. Al poco rato, prendía un motor. Prendía un motor, se apagaba, volvían al pabellón de la cárcel, se llevaban otro y volvía y ocurría lo mismo. Llevaba un tiempo, rum, prendía ese motor. Se apagaba el motor y volvían y buscaban otro. Prendían el motor para que no se oyera el grito de el electrocutado, porque un día no prendió, se retrasó. ¡Ay! Y quedó. Si en la misma operación electrocutan a uno, era electrocutado, que lo mataban. Yo una noche conté 7.
Fuck, bro. I remember this house. I know that painting. I remember that painting when I was little. I remember that painting. Like, I think I've been there. That was my aunt. That's my aunt, and then that's my uncle. That's my tia Gladys, but we call her Mosita. And then this is my uncle Gustavo, but we call him Gustavito or Tío Nando. Like this looks so familiar to me.
Mi padre fue Pedro Aníbal Fuentes Ver, el fotógrafo de la 40 que tiró aquellas fotos de tortura que le dieron la vuelta al mundo. Yo llamaba a mi héroe anónimo porque cada vez que yo cogía un libro y yo veía que decía de que fotos tiradas por un calié de la 40 o fotos tiradas de que por un oficial de la cosa. Me hacía sentir mal porque yo sé que no era así. La historia era otra. Este es su carnet de la Asociación de Fotógrafos del año 58. 14 de noviembre del 58. Asociación de Fotógrafos Profesionales. Y este es su pasaporte. Porque él viajaba a Nueva York a ver a mi hermano mayor que estaba allá.
Mhm.
Aquí está de todas formas. Artística, serio, pensativo. Parece que él gastaba los rollos en él cuando quedaba. Cuando lo tiraba a nosotros, se lo tiraba a él. Esta es en Nueva York,
Mhm.
vestido de marino.
Sometimes he went to New
Esa
York.
fue en la ciudad
Yeah.
de Nueva York, esa.
Yeah, apparently
Creo yo.
one of my uncles in New York, one of my brothers, that's probably
otras
the one that
son de
helped
aquí.
me with my taxes.
En una se ve más delgado que en otra.
Mhm.
Son los distintos selfies que se dicen ahora.
Different
Que él
selfies.
se hacía. Y aquí estamos una foto muy artística. Como un actor de cine.
That's the picture I grew up with. That's my grandma. That's all my grandma.
Yo tengo varios recuerdos del que me acuerdo perfectamente. Incluso uno de ellos fue muy desagradable, que fue que me monté con él en la parrilla de una bicicleta y sin querer metí los piecitos atrás
I think that baby was my mom.
en los rayos y me quedó la marca para siempre, en la parte en el talón. Y él después entonces lo que hizo fue que me trajo cargada para curarme aquí, botando sangre como loca, ya tú sabes.
Mhm.
Este Gustavo, como yo era la más grande, yo era la que piloteaba. Yo aquí tenía como 5 años y Gustavo tenía que tener como algunos 2 y algo, 3. Esto no fue muy lejos de la desaparición de él.
All right. That's as far as I'm showing. I'm getting emotional again. I'll put the chilling. Oh yeah, no, he was very handsome. Like a really funny story. A really funny story. Let me put everything back on before I forget to turn it back on. And put that back up. A really funny story, because my mom and my dad had marriage troubles, and so did my Auntie B and her husband. She had a lot of problems with men. One time they went to my grandma for some semblance of assistance. Like my grandma was any better. But one funny story that I'll always remember hearing about my grandma was that my dad and my mom went to see her. Like, or they went to visit her and my aunt, and they were all talking about their problems. And my grandma was like, and the main problem came down to not enough sex. The problem was not enough sex. Like, mom just isn't putting out. Auntie B, I guess, wasn't putting out. The husbands were complaining to the grandma, to the matron. And my grandma pulls them. My grandma pulls my mom and Auntie B aside. And she's like, there's no way you two are my daughters. There's absolutely no way you two are my daughters. And she had looked at my mom and she said, when I was with your father, when your father was alive, I didn't let that man sleep. She said, I didn't let that man sleep. Ella. Digo, hija mía, ustedes no son. Cuando tu papá estaba vivo, yo no dejaba a ese hombre dormir. She said, when I was your age and your father was alive, I didn't let that man sleep. That man didn't sleep. Yo arriba de él. I was clearly too young to hear this, but like, apparently that was something that my dad told me about my grandma. That she was so in love with him. They were so in love. I mean, and they had...
Arid just got me a coffee.
Oh!
Thank you, Tilda.
Oh! Arad, thank you for the coffee. You didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. But... yeah, they were very much in love. And I'm sure, because my Aunt Mosita, she, the one in the documentary, and was saying that she was, when she showed those last batch of photos, that she was around 5 or 6. But it wasn't long after these photos, it was sometime after these photos that he was taken away. My uncle Jutavito, who's also in the documentary, who they showed for a brief second there, was around 3 or 4. My mother had to have been very, very young, not old enough to remember it. And then she says that one of her siblings was in New York, which was probably my uncle Manolin. Dominican names, I'm not sure if it's all of Latin America, but Dominican names, you have your name, your middle name, your last names, and there's always an extra name. Nobody ever calls you by your actual name in DR. My grandfather, one of his names, his like nickname was Chichi. I grew up hearing the term Chichi as like, darling, sweetie, my baby. My mom would call my brother Chichi. I thought that was just like a baby term of endearment. And it was like, no, that's what our grandfather was called. He was called Chichi. Mom gave me grandfather's nickname, Chichi. And he was like, that's why, like, you know, our aunt, her name is Gladys, but everybody called her, you know, Mosita. You know, our uncle in Nevada, his name is this, but they call him Manolin. You know, our mom is called this, but they call her that. Your name is this, but they call you Tuti. And I'm like, okay, but like, do you not understand how confusing that makes things? So I think the sibling she's talking about that was in New York, I think that was my uncle that is now in Nevada, because as far as I know, there's no other siblings. And my brother was like, there's 4 siblings. There's 2 brothers and 2 sisters, and one of them is my mom. If there's another 5th sibling, I have no idea. But yeah, they were all just little kids when it happened. I really hope they answer. I really hope they answer. I really want to show you guys this documentary. I know at some point, I'm between now and then, I'll probably have watched it already. But I wanted to share the little bit that I could probably get away with. And hope that they'll give me permission. But it's crazy, like, seeing my aunt. Like, I only ever saw one photo of him. And like seeing all these other photos of him. And just like, bro's just a guy. Like, he was always this mysterious person that we admired because we knew he did something really good at the cost of his life, but we didn't know him. And I always wondered why we never talked more about it. Obviously, it was because I was a kid. And obviously, it's because my mom only had so many memories and probably didn't want to talk about it. Because that's an unfortunate thing, too, with, I think, any traumatic thing with family. But it's definitely prevalent as well in Latin America that no one wants to talk about it. Even now in the Dominican Republic, when it comes to thinking about Trujillo, what he was to that to the Dominican Republic, he's still somehow a polarizing figure. There are people that are still like, well, when he was around, he did a lot of good for the country economically and education wise. He did all this good for the country, and it's like, yeah, but he killed so many people. He abused his power and he killed so many people. And because it was also just in general such a dark time with the massacre and things like that, no one wants to talk about it. an uncomfortable topic. But I think that's the problem. No one wants to talk about it. I think we need to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about him. I want people to know about him. I want people to like know history. Because I look at what I know and what I heard, and I see what's happening now, and I'm just like, that could easily happen in another country. That easily could happen to the States. Maybe with like online and social media and stuff, it'd be a lot harder. But like, we're not that far behind, and it's crazy that it was only a little over 80 years ago. If my grandfather was able to live his whole life, I feel like he would have passed away already, sadly. But I don't know. It's definitely been on my mind since me and my brother talked. And obviously I like lack of sleep would have warned him off. Well, yeah, like, again, always being on your toes, hyper vigilant. Any day now they'll come in and take everything. On top of that, just like, being there, watching people die, having to photograph people dying, having to develop that. Like, I'm sure it took a mental toll on him. I'm sure it destroyed him in some way to have to do that. He was forced to. And knowing that making the choice he did was going to put not only him at risk, but the rest of his family. Because he knew what they were doing in there. He knew what they were capable of. But, yeah. I didn't have much of a plan. I wasn't, again, because I had asked for permission to the publishers of the documentary. At first I wasn't going to stream today, but I still really wanted to, because I wanted to, like, talk about my feelings, because I like doing that. I like talking to you guys. I like being, I guess, as transparent and raw as I can be. I don't know why it's a lot easier to do it on stream at times than to do it in front of, like, people. I'm really weird. But I'm glad you guys are here, listening or just vibing. I'm really grateful for that. Earlier this year, when we saw the Bad Bunny halftime show, I I had said that I was gonna like go down my my aggressive Latina arc. My shameless, aggressively Latina arc. And while not aggressive, I think this is also a part of it. I think this is a part of that arc. Learning about my family, kind of uncovering all of that and understanding what they went through. Because even if they were young, it must have been so hard. And if not, then my grandma. It's that sort of thing that makes me wish that my grandma tried to be more around. That makes me wish I got to know her. Because I would have asked her to tell me stories about him. And maybe we could have bonded over that instead of my remaining memories of her being cutting up banana and putting it in oatmeal so she could eat while she's dying of cancer. Like, damn. You know, you think about the what ifs. And or like if maybe I was a little older at that time, where I could have been told about these things. Like, it's weird. I don't know my family. But I know my family asks about me to some extent. My aunt asks about me, and they want to know how I'm doing. And there's a part of me, I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I'd have the chance. But maybe after Jester and I get married, maybe I can visit. Maybe I can visit. And maybe I can see them. They might all seem like strangers. But maybe I can try to know them a little bit. Now that I'm older. Now that I understand a little more. Now that I can properly talk to them. Because back then, when I first saw them, I couldn't. I was too young. The little bits when I got older, there wasn't really much to talk about.
I know they're all, unfortunately, I do know that side of the family can also be a little money grubby, which is why I think my mother also kind of kept them at arm's length. There's a reason my parents haven't super gone there, but they go every once in a while. So it's something that'll be in my mind for a bit. Maybe maybe we'll think about visiting them. I know that Mama Jester asked about that, like, well, maybe for honeymoon, maybe you can visit that side of the family and they can see you again. After having how long it's been. You can introduce them to Jester. I was never against it. I just wasn't sure how to go about it because it's like, I don't know them. They don't like go out of their way to reach out to me, and to be fair, I don't either. But I don't know them. So there's also a bit of a fear there where it's like, well, where am I going? But it might be something I think about. It wouldn't be immediate because unfortunately travel's really expensive, and so is a wedding, and we're trying to keep things at a budget. But I'll definitely have it in consideration. And that's where I'm trying to like spin this into like a positive, where I'm like, this movie, this documentary, and these stories, and the realization of like the generational trauma and how it manifested and was passed on in a way as simple as cooking, and trying to take that and turn it into, if even a small attempt to connect with my family. I want to try doing that. I feel so oddly distant from them. Like, like growing up, my mother would, whenever she would try to force me to go places, she'd be like, it's your family, they're your family. And my brain just couldn't process that. Like, my brain couldn't understand why that meant it mattered. Or I was like, okay, they're my family, but I don't know them. I've never seen them. They don't talk to me. I've never talked to them. I saw them when I was like 5 or 6 and have little to no memory of them. I don't know them. And the only other times I'd hear about them would be when my mom would talk about how auntie's being this way again, auntie's being, that way, and uncles being like this, and it was never like good things. So it was like, so not only do I never see these people, but growing up, I get you telling me negative things about them. So why do I have to suddenly care about these people? But again, my mom was like, but that's my sister, that's your aunt, that's our family. So I mean, it sucks that I couldn't really process that as a teenager, But I was also trying to kind of like live in my own moment, because, you know, being a teenager, being in high school, having been bullied, the pressure from my family to be a certain way, I was already in my own little survival mode all the time. I didn't have the spoons. I didn't have the emotional or mental spoons to deal with people like all the way in another country in the Caribbean. I didn't have time for that. I didn't have patience for that. I didn't have the mental fortitude to think about all that. I had to focus on getting my grades up. I had to, you know, dumb shit now when you think about it, but the things that a teenager was focusing on top of all of that stuff, and my own unfortunate trauma that does its thing to your brain. I feel bad. But when I was telling my brother this, because again, he explained this, and he had told me, like, hey, we had to kind of close ourselves off from outside toxicity. We had to, like, protect ourselves from the constant bullshit happening with the extended family. We had to close ourselves off. Mom and Dad didn't involve us in that, and we didn't get ourselves involved. You didn't know because there was no way you could have known, and by the time you could, you didn't care because you never were given the chance to. And he told me that that wasn't my fault. But a part of me is like, what do you mean it's not my fault? I didn't try to get to know these people. And he's like, well, you could try now if you want, but no one would blame you if you didn't. But it doesn't feel right still. I don't know what feels right. All I know for sure is that I want to watch this documentary. That I want to share it with you guys if it's possible. If they tell me I can't, maybe I'll follow in my grandfather's footsteps, but I would really much like not to in this case. And then have more talks like this. Because I've been trying to stop myself from, like, bawling and ugly crying, I do have a migraine. So, unfortunately, I won't be streaming much longer today. Because again, originally I wasn't going to stream. Originally I wasn't going to. But I felt like I wanted to be here and talk to you guys and be around you guys. If it turns out they tell me no, that I can't share it, and that they're gonna have... Here's the thing. Worst possible case scenario. They not only tell me no, but they keep their eye on me to ensure that I don't leak it. I don't think it'll get that bad. I don't think it will though. But that's the absolute worst case scenario. And if that becomes the case, then maybe I'll just have a community night where we sit and watch it. Kind of like how Blue sometimes would have his community nights with the server. Maybe I'll do a community night for those interested. I might want to watch it with my friends first. Just to... Because I don't want to watch it alone. I don't want to watch it alone. I don't want to watch it alone. So I might want to watch it with my friends first. And then maybe a community night if I'm not able to stream, share, / react to it. But I am going to head out for now. I had a heckin' migraine from all the sniffling. And I want to thank you guys so much for spending time with me today and hearing me talk, for watching a little snippet of the documentary, of just being here and showing your support and your love and just being my friend. I don't say that in some weird sort of parasocial way. I do care about you guys, and my little Bernard army, my Bernards. Next week, I should hopefully be over at Varendel's channel for Eternal Sonata. Tomorrow, we'll definitely have some, actually tomorrow, will be on Honkai Star Rail. 4.2 is out. We're going to be watching Silver Wolf's trailers, and we're going to be playing some 4.2. And then on Monday, we'll be having some Comfy Lizard. We are gonna be watching any of the Final Fantasy XIV trailers that came out during FanFest. We will probably watch some highlights of the keynote. And we will spend some time in Final Fantasy XIV. Finally made my bunny boy alt, hell yeah. And then we're gonna have a comfy time. But oh. Okay, that was just the Kofi being like, you got money, and I'm like, oh. I saw the Gmail notification. I was like, is that an answer? But I don't think so, because it's like 11 o'clock in DR right now, and I sent the email like just before stream. There's no way. I probably won't get a response till maybe after the weekend. I have no idea. But yeah. I'm glad to have finally gotten 3 stars in a POC 4. Hope you enjoy the trailers. They look great. I've heard. I have kept 14 away from my feed. I know that the expansion's called Evercold, but I don't know anything else. So I'm looking forward to seeing it on Monday. But again, I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I will see you all with Lynn tomorrow for some Honkai Star Rail. I hope you all have a wonderful night, and I will see you later. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.